and we're live at KCSB FM Santa Barbara 91.9. KCSB is a platform for cultural expression and thoughtful discussion, providing a diverse educational forum. And I'm a Santa Barbara-based clinical psychologist. I specialize in pediatric neuropsychology. And during my clinical training and my current work, I've treated thousands of people, and I want to share my experiences with you. I'm also UCSB alumni, and I live locally in Santa Barbara. And this show's all about our community and how to create compassionate conversations about our well-being and health. This week, just as a side note, we're asking you to support the radio show and the community. And if you'd like to, you can call to pledge your support right now. There's people standing by, and the phone number is 805-893-2424. And with your donation of $50, you can choose a gift such as event tickets or dining certificates. So call to support UCSB Radio. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about mental health and well-being with a focus on beauty and serenity with our very special guest, Jack Herschorn. Jack began his career as a chiropractor in Venice Beach in the 1970s and moved to Santa Barbara in the 1990s. And then Jack and his wife, Rose, started Jack's Famous Bagels. When the Herschorns sold Jack's Bagels, they decided to embark upon a trip around the world with their two children, David and Lauren, who were 11 and 9 at the time. And then they traveled and acquired items from China, Tibet, and other places around the world, creating their current business called The Sacred Space, which is in Summerland. Actually, is that considered Summerland or Montecito? Yeah, okay. And with ringing endorsements from notable characters in the spiritual sphere, as well as the entertainment industry, the likes of Oprah Winfrey, Maria Shriver, and Eckhart Tolle have walked the grounds, taking in the beautiful finds that Jack and Rose have handpicked while on their regular buying trips to Asia. The Sacred Space has a soulful touch and an enchanting experience. Their goal is to plant a seed of higher consciousness of the beauty that is possible in this frenetic world. And then the beauty helps us shift into a calm serenity. We're here talking about mental health stigma because in recent news, did you know that mental health is the largest public health priority and the largest financial burden of any health issue in the world? That's according to the World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum. In a report by the Centers for Disease Control called Attitudes Toward Mental Illness, they found that stigma and embarrassment are two of the top reasons why people do not seek help. I'd like to talk just a little bit about what is mental health, because I know I'm on here talking about mental health, and I think it means different things to different people. I think of mental health as having a physiological balance, meaning your nervous system, your heart, your brain, your thoughts, your kind of internal world are able to be balanced with your external world, meaning all the people, places, sounds, smells, and that gives us a sense of inner peace. Psychologists have long known that people's surroundings can really influence their moods and their mental health, and that mental health services are unevenly distributed in communities. And there's all sorts of small interactions that can influence a person's mood over the course of a day. And that's why I thought it'd be great to have Jack come in because he has lots of things he has at his sacred space, and I'm sure that he encounters in other ways in his life that do affect people's mood over the course of a day. So welcome to the show, Jack.
Hi, so happy to be here.
Thank you for coming. I was wondering how you yourself would describe mental health.
Well, for me personally, I've been on a search of finding out who I am my entire life. It probably started with being rejected by people in grammar school and high school and not feeling part of the social atmosphere that was going on, feeling a little different. And that probably led me on a search of who am I? Why do I feel this way? And I would say that evolved into a lifelong search of who am I? What do I do? You know, what is my internal being?
So you're saying for mental health for you is kind of a search to understand yourself and who you are, and maybe understanding that through your experiences with the world.
Yes, and at an early age, probably around 16 or 17, I used to go up to the Self-Realization restaurant, which was across the street from Kaiser in Los Angeles. And I think my mother was in the hospital for something, and I stumbled across this vegetarian restaurant, and the people were wearing gowns, and I started eating vegetarian food. And at some point, it made sense to me because, well, we were, meat and potato type family. What was dinner without a steak or without chicken or without other meat products? And by the age of 21, I became a vegetarian. I decided that I just morally couldn't be eating animals.
Are you still vegetarian?
I have not eaten any meat for 53 years,
wow, that's awesome.
But I have, at some point, I went back to eating fish. Mm-hmm. I had developed pancreatitis, and I had lost 50 pounds, and I was like on the train out, and I needed to really increase my protein intake.
I've done that. I was a vegetarian for like 15 years, but my son, who's 12, has been a vegetarian on his own volition since he was 3. So I think, though, you're saying that part of that, you had this experience at this health food store. You called it, what did you call it, the Self-Realization restaurant?
It's Self-Realization Fellowship, which was a Yogananda's group.
Oh, I see. It was a group, and that kind of got you.
And they had a restaurant on Sunset Boulevard.
Nice.
And I started eating there and visiting my mom, and then I'd go up there to eat. And that sort of trigger. And then I read, Autobiography of a Yogi. Like many people, that was my first spiritual book. Mm-hmm. And then later on, when I was around 21 or 22, maybe it was 1960, maybe I was older. I think it was around 1968, I was initiated into TM.
Are you still practicing TM then? Yeah.
Not exactly.
Yeah.
Not exactly. I've been introduced to a lot of different types of meditations, and I was initiated by another Indian guru, which became my main focus.
Nice. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, I think it's neat how each person I have, come on, how we all have a different journey, and then if we have different pieces that lead us to what kind of drives us to do what we're doing. So sounds like you found a match, though, because you get to have your work and your goal for your journey of figuring out, kind of understanding yourself, right? Those go together. I like to just talk for a couple minutes about what is mental health stigma, because I'm on this mission to reduce mental health stigma, basically what it means, we should probably come up with a different word from stigma, but it just basically means the ability to talk about mental health. And mental health is really no different from any other health. It's just something that we have grown to have like discriminating attitudes toward. Although I think people are becoming more open to talking about mental health. And there's two kind of stigmas I like to go over, which is social stigma and self-stigma. And self-stigma is when the person who has mental health issues internalizes those perceptions and they discriminate against themselves. This is very common. I see this in my practice quite a bit. We probably all have experienced some of these things. And then there's social stigma, which is where attitudes and discriminating behavior that are directed toward individuals with mental health problems because of the label they may have been given. And I think that it's really important just to talk about, because there's lots of options out there, so we can take care of our mental health by being able to discuss our emotions, thoughts, and feelings within ourselves. We're going to just take a 1-minute break here, and I'm going to play a PSA, and then we're going to come right back. I'm going to play this Wildlife Center open house, and then we will come right back and talk more about beauty and serenity and mental health.
The Santa Barbara Wildlife Care Network will be holding an open house and baby shower on Saturday, March 9th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at 1460 North Fairview Avenue. This event offers a behind-the-scenes look at the Wildlife Center, which is usually closed to the public, and a chance to learn about the different baby animals that will come through their doors. More information on the open house and how you can further assist this baby season can be found at www.sbwcn.org/events/open house.
Hi, welcome back to the Dr. Deborah Show. This is the show where we're talking about bringing peace and calm into your life. And we're here live at KCSB FM Santa Barbara 91.9. And today on the show, we're talking about mental health and well-being with a focus on beauty and serenity. I love that topic. And we have a very special guest, Jack Herschorn. And I did briefly introduce Jack, but Jack actually and his wife Rose started Jack's Famous Bagels here in Santa Barbara. But they've been traveling and collecting items from China, Tibet, and other places around the world. And they've created a beautiful business called The Sacred Space in Montecito. And they've had endorsements from Oprah Winfrey, Shriver, Eckhart Tolle. And they have beautiful grounds to walk on and beautiful finds that Jack and Rose have handpicked while on their regular buying trips to Asia. And what's really lovely about the Sacred Space is that it, and I have heard this from many people, is it has a very soulful touch and it's very enchanting. And I think we all need that in this day and age. And their goal is to plant a seed of higher consciousness of the beauty that is possible in this frenetic world. And I think the beauty, just like they're saying, helps us shift into a calm serenity. I was wondering, Jack, welcome to the show again.
Thank you.
I was wondering, how do you think mental health, welcome, and beauty and serenity kind of intersect?
Well, we've had a lot of experience with people coming into the sacred space. We have over 30,000 clients, and I have noticed over the years that we get people coming in saying, well, I'm going to check this shop out. I'm just going to go walk through it. And it'll be a businessman in a suit, and he's looking quite businesslike when he walks in.
Yeah.
And then I don't see him for an hour. I mean, I sit behind the cash register on weekends, and then they come in and they're leaving and they're like looking up and their tie is loosened and something has affected him in the sacred space. And I'm trying to figure out what to attribute it to. Now, we have some very old Buddha statues. We have a lot of very beautiful Buddhas, and which have been in temples or have been in holy places,
right,
with thousands, maybe, of people praying to them. And we have artifacts that are from pagodas in China. You know, there were carvings and many holy items. And I think to myself, is the energy within the items affecting the people?
I completely agree. In fact, I don't know if you know who James Hillman is. He took over Carl Jung's institute. If you don't know who Carl Jung is, he wrote the Red Book. He's kind of like one of the grandfathers of psychology. And James Hillman actually used to come here, and I did some master's classes with him. And I love how he talks about, you know, texture and how things, you know, have meaning. And I think one thing he was talking about is when someone passed away, kind of going to clear out their things and brushing the dust off the books and looking, you know, through this little window and the beams of light and the dust particles and realizing, oh my gosh, that's actually that person's dust particles. And I thought that was very profound because I think they are still, like you're saying, maybe their spirit or somehow, not spirit, but, you know, their dust particles are on there.
I mean, something energetic happens there. And, you know, I related, I think back that Summerland was a spiritualist community. That's what it was founded as.
Yeah.
And the location of our building is sort of the main spot. It is the main spot. It is the entry to it. It's at the end of the canyon, and we have no buildings in front of us. We're ocean front, except the freeway is between us and the ocean. And there is something special. There's something special. There's something energetic going on there, because people invariably go through some mental change, and they feel something different. They come out calm.
Changed. They've changed. I was doing a little research. Thanks for sharing that about, kind of what you're talking about, how location and the things around us affect us. And through the American Psychological Association, they had some research, but it was a little outdated. It was like from 2011. But it said they were exploring how location affects mental health. And it's a new area where they track people's locations and movements to glean insights into their mental well-being. And they called it actually personal sensing. That was like in quotes. And they said it's like they can track the person's position, time, and then gather information about aspects of movement, such as like the variability of where they're located, time spent in specific locations, and how rhythmic the movement is. I thought that was kind of neat, how people move in different ways, too. They said, and then they'd go a step further to combine the data with other like sensory data, like exposure to light, ambient light, green space, noise, air pollution, or not air pollution. And, if you have flowers and things like that, right, that cleans our air, and many other factors that seem to influence a person's health and well-being. And it seems that such information could really directly inform our interventions to improve our health. So, I kind of was thinking that does dovetail a little bit with what you're doing at the Sacred Space.
Well, we have scents. We have natural scents in the shop. We have flower bouquets everywhere. We have gardens. We have meditation spots. And we have artifacts. And I'm wondering if there's Chumash energy.
That's exactly what I was going to say 5 minutes ago, but I didn't get to that part. I think, that was that all Chumash stuff there?
I think, I don't have the research, but I think something happened at that spot.
Well, I know that I've talked to the mayor of Carpentry, because he's on this board for HopeNet of Carpentry, why I do this radio show. And I know he was explaining to me that there's the Rainbow Bridge, right? That the woman that was on the islands, she came over from the islands to I know Carpinteria, but I'm sure that whole region, from Summerland right through there. But you're saying you think specifically where the Sacred Space has.
I think something.
Neat. You should research that.
I've tried. I haven't gotten.
You'll get it. The main thing is that what you're saying is people. I didn't mean to interrupt you. You were saying you haven't gotten anything. I was just thinking the main thing is that people are coming. So there's obviously some gravitational pull there. And what you're saying is people are transformed as they move through that with the flowers and the not statues, what are those? What did you call?
Artifacts.
The artifacts.
The Buddhas, the deities. We have, Christian items. We have Judaica. We have Buddhist. We have Hindu. They're all represented.
So everybody can feel accepted. And I think we all need to feel accepted. And I noticed at the beginning of the show you were talking about growing up. And I think from the time we're children, we notice the difference in others. And then we're taught to look at the world from the lens of our upbringing and the life experiences that do shape us. And I think what you're talking about is when people come into your shop, it sounds like they actually are having changes like in their brain, right? Because maybe they're thinking differently and their nervous system's getting, shifted because maybe they're being a little more calm and feeling more peaceful. Do you talk to people like after, like the guy with the tie that loosened his tie? Did you end up asking him or no?
We know that there is no person that doesn't have some internal battle. Every single person has got some issue or battle, and we know that a large percentage of our people keep coming back. We keep coming back. Just on the people who are on our mailing list are extremely loyal. We have close to 15,000 people on our mailing list.
Wow. Is that local people or is that just people from all over?
They're from all over the world. We actually have clients that fly from Texas to come to our shop.
Nice.
We have people from San Diego, San Francisco, Seattle,
Just shows you.
anybody who drives the coast. And once they come in, invariably, they keep coming in every time they drive the coast. And, it's like Nepenthe on the in Big Sur.
It's like a ritual.
They come in, they have tea at our place. They sit in our pavilions, our little garden structures, and they do some meditation. They get rejuvenated.
I think people are really craving that, considering they're coming from all over too.
It's interesting. We have journals in our seating areas, and we now have filled, I believe, 75 or 80 300-page journals with people writing things about how they feel, why they're there, about their families, why they stopped in. It's unbelievable. In fact, I've got to get, if you're out there, if you're a student and a writer, and you want to go through our books and help us make them into one great book, I'm looking for you.
And you'd be a lucky student, too, because that'd be an amazing experience. I love that, though. So people really get a chance to process, too, because by journaling, they're kind of able to express what they're feeling in that moment.
We've had things like this happen. We've had... we had one couple where the guy got killed, and they had been in like the week before he died, and they had written in a journal. And after he died, his fiance came in to find what he wrote. We've had numbers of stories
beautiful.
like that.
But I also love that you are reachable, that people like that have had that. It's not like the journal goes into some abyss. They feel a connection not only to your place, but also to the relationship it sounds like you're building with the people that come in, and they probably feel very welcome. I think that, there's something about feeling welcome, too. And I think that you have set the tenor for people to feel comfortable, for...
Well, yeah. Well, we're more of a service oriented. We're not a hard sales type organization. It's not a business that we're getting rich on. It's a business of it's our opportunity to give and to grow. And we talk to people and we find out things, and we have connections with our clients. It's not what's in your bank account. It's what's in your heart at the sacred space.
Well, I think that's what should matter anyhow. Money is important, but I don't think we really need that much. And also, even like when Glenn Phillips was on here, he was talking about, people, they feel like they need to reach this 15 minutes of fame. But he was like, but then once you have that, where do you go from there? So really, it's about enjoying yourself and the people around you and finding some way to have some levels of peace. I did do another little research piece I found was the National Institute on Health has been collecting information about participants' travel paths. And then they combine it with like environmental data. And they figure out like factors like physical disorders in the environment, or including abandoned buildings, or they do these different places that have unusual things going on. And then they basically are trying to figure out how to adapt any number of mental health problems in which an environment plays a role to change that. So if you think of like depression or post-traumatic stress disorder, especially like I know we're all recovering from the debris flow and the fires, I think, our community has some post-traumatic stress disorder. Doesn't mean you're disabled, but, we're all impacted by it. And I think if we can have a place and space to go to, that can help us feel a little bit more calm. I was wondering, Jack, if you could explain how you think that beauty and serenity relate to mental health.
Well, it's interesting. Things that are beautiful or things that give you serenity are mind clearing.
Right.
It's like modern art. You start looking at the patterns, and it sort of breaks your pattern of thinking about the problem that the issue you have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One example I might give is that with Buddhas, with deity statues, it's when somebody looks at a statue and they somehow or other look at that expression and they get a serene feeling within themselves, that can be a very important icon in their life if they acquire that statue or a different statue or a picture or something, because when they look at it, it takes them into that feeling and it breaks the pattern of stress. It breaks the problems.
Well, also, we get so focused on convincing ourselves that what we feel and what's going on is all that it is, right? So if we can shift that, like you're saying, by looking at something. And also, usually those Buddhist faces are very calm. You know, they're not tense faces.
Yeah, but it's funny, you know, in the handmade statue in that world, there's a variation in every single one. And you may look at 20 or 30 statues, then all of a sudden you look at one and it connects with something within you. Or it could be a Kuan Yin, or it could be a depiction of Mother Mary, or the Virgin of Guadalupe. You know, it could be any one of many things. But if you connect with that face, well, you can have that on your wall or on a little altar at home or someplace that you look all the time, and that's going to help you mentally dramatically.
Well, actually, neurologically, I would think that makes sense too, because we get mirror neurons when we look at something or someone, and when we are able to engage with a person, I hear that the face isn't talking back to us, but I think just being able to look at something that maybe isn't, we don't feel like we're being attacked, and maybe we can fill ourselves with that. We can create a new neural pathway, and maybe we can think about that image versus, you know, instead of getting more and more stressed, we can think of that image, like you're saying, and kind of interrupt that kind of, we get very stale, I think, thinking about the same thing over and over, right?
Yeah, or, you know, it's looking at anything that you love, if anything that you connect with can break, you know, a lot of people, it's that diamond ring. Oh, my God. That breaks it up for them.
I just I grew up in San Luis Obispo, so I'm like a cowgirl. So I just I've created my own meditation. I teach my patients, and I go in schools and teach. And the brunt of it is actually related to nature, because I think you can look at nature. It's free. You know, it's around us all the time, even if you look out the window. And it could be, you know, the wind blowing, a leaf that's green, you know, anything, the sky. So, but also I think if we can, like what you're saying, do people come in and build shrines, like with their items they purchase?
Oh, a lot of people have altars, or they start with, you know, somebody might buy a $10 little depiction of some deity,
like Buddha or something, yeah.
And they take it home, or they carry it in their purse, and that may be the start of something, you know. It
definitely is. Yeah, I've had that. I mean, when I worked for Roddelay Weininger, she gave me something, and then now I have a whole collection. And actually, patients give me shrines, and people give me things like stones or cards. I've got things from all over the world. So I have this big shrine. I just kind of keep adding, you know, because it makes me feel grounded. I was wondering, how do you think that Beauty and Serenity accepts or rejects mental health stigma? I know these are kind of different questions than what you're probably used to. Meaning, do you think that like if we're utilizing Beauty and Serenity, that we're less apt or we're less prone to be focusing on someone and like discriminating against them, or maybe would we maybe be more accepting of them?
Well, I can just, in our experience, you know, we have a lot of, a number, not a lot, but a number of like autistic kids coming in.
Yeah.
Or a busload of them coming. We used to have them coming every week. We had a busload, maybe it was like eight people from a special needs home.
Right.
And we were their favorite. We're their favorite place.
Well, because it's safe.
I don't know what happens. Well, we have one that comes in. God, this kid comes in almost every 2 weeks, and he's fairly severely autistic, but there's something that he connects with.
Well, I think it's a very safe place. I mean, I think people inherently know, something that's hurtful. And if they feel like it's safe, they don't move away from it. They move toward it, right? And then they can feel some, relief.
Yeah, and he collects little things. He gets little things from us. And he calls me by name, and he calls Rose by name.
So sweet.
And, his mother's ecstatic.
I love it. Well, we all need love. I mean, it's like, I think we all need to feel like we're part of a group, and so it sounds like people come to your place and they feel like they're part of the sacred space group, right?
They are.
I know. I need
or
to
a spaced out group.
No, well, I mean, I think it sounds very just accepting and welcoming, and I think that's what we all kind of need. I mean, that to me, that would be like the opposite of stigma, because stigma is more right when we have, prejudicial attitudes or we discriminate. So a person like you're talking about that has autism, that probably throughout most of their life has encountered, probably a lot of exclusion and maybe poor social support or low self-esteem, so to come to a place like that where the quality of living can really be improved and they can feel connected to others. They can maybe feel even self-reliant, picking out their own pieces, like, hey, I can take care of myself to some degree. Maybe that's the message they're sending themselves. I don't know. It sounds like your work that you've done, I know you've done a variety of things, but I was just curious, how do you think, what has your work in the beauty and serenity field taught you about the attitudes that you think people hold toward mental health? I know people probably don't talk about that explicitly, but I was just curious.
Well, I've been involved with autism for many years. I'm on the board of the help group.
Nice.
Of the help group in the LA area, which is the largest school for autism probably in America. We have, I think, 1,200 kids with Asperger's and autism. We have 5 campuses, and it does important work. They're like anybody else. They're trying to find themselves. And some do. Some make tremendous progress, and they get to some place within their brain where they become functional within society. There's all kinds of personalities.
For sure.
I can't say that there has to be a single standard.
No, what I was thinking is, because I know you've traveled in Asia and, you've not just in America, but America is good too. I was just curious, when you talk about the work you do with beauty and serenity, the field that now you're in, I know you've done other things. I was curious what that has taught you about those attitudes. If when you go to Asia, for example, and you're talking about beauty and serenity and health or mental health, or if people aren't even talking about that relationship. You know what I mean? If that just doesn't make a connection when you talk to people about, I have the sacred space and we work toward having beauty and serenity. And then the person doesn't really make that connection because maybe they're selling you an item or they don't understand the purpose.
Well,
or maybe they do.
Well, we deal with artists. We deal with people who carve statues or other items, and invariably, the artistic qualities of that person and their development shows up in their work. You cannot create a statue, say, of a Buddha with a serene face if you do not have internal serenity yourself. I mean, you got to be an artist to do what we sell.
So you're So you're kind of saying it kind of emanates out of them, but it's not a spoken piece. Okay, if you have more beauty and serenity in your life, that you'll have more mental health, and people aren't talking about that per se, but you're saying that's embodied in the images or the pieces they work on.
In what we sell.
Right.
It's not like most of our stuff is not like a manufactured good.
Right.
If it is a manufactured good, it is one piece that was a masterpiece and then we made copies of it, and we do that.
Right, but when you go buy these things, like, does anybody ask you, "Oh, what are you doing with all this?" Or, like, are they curious? Like, that, and then you would tell your story, like, well, we have people that come and they really enjoy our sacred space, and I feel that we're helping other people with their mental health or with their health, so they can feel more peace. I was just curious if that ever comes up, or if that's just not a conscious topic of discussion.
I would say that most of the people we deal with are on our page.
Nice.
We're not dealing with quantities and margins and this and that. We're dealing with the basically the art world.
Right. So it's a little bit of a different circumstance. I'm always curious how the interplay of whatever the topic is, how that might interface with mental health, or if it's just like nobody's really talking about it. But I just think that it's important to talk about, but because, to make it conscious. But it sounds like what you're saying is when you go to these places, the people you're working with are on the same page as you because they have the same approach to life and about bringing peace into people's homes or lives and into themselves.
They work, most of the world works differently than we do. When you're in handicraft nations, Indonesia's handicraft, India is handicraft, Nepal is handicraft, Thailand is handicraft, most of China is handicraft. Manufactured goods, that's where they're doing thousands of the same thing.
Right. You're talking about you have one-on-one kind of,
Yeah, and the people doing handicraft work are in better mental condition.
Right.
They because it's come from them.
Right. They're working with their hands.
They're working with their hands. They're working with their mind, and they're working with their right brain more than their left brain. That's my opinion.
Well, we've gotten a little lopsided with our right brain, left brain. I mean, I think we definitely have lost track of creativity, and we really need that. It's a very important part of our psyche and our souls to create and not just be fixing things and getting to our appointments and getting to our meetings, because we have to counterbalance that. And actually in Greco-Roman times, the poets and the musicians and all those, the artists were the people everybody really, really revered. But I think over time we lost that. Now we're kind of getting back to that, right, of revering that.
I hope so. I hope we bring wood shop and metal shop and print shop and auto shop back into the high schools. Start teaching the trades again. Start people doing things with their hands.
Right. So important.
We went too far with reading, writing,
Totally.
arithmetic.
It's really horrible. Actually, I see a lot of young adults in my practice, and I mean, it doesn't matter if they're at Princeton or whatever Ivy League school. A lot of them are really suffering because they're on this trajectory, and it's just like churn and burn, where they're just turning to turn, and they get in these schools, and it's like, what am I doing here? So there's not a lot of meaning. And I think, actually, my son did say that they're offering wood shop. I know he wanted to take that in junior high.
They're offering it here?
Yeah, they offer it in Santa Barbara. But I know I took jewelry and wood shop and cooking and sewing and all those things that are kind of really important. But even if you don't, have the opportunity, if you're an adult and you want that in your life, you can find places like the Sacred Space. Or I know I've even created, my girlfriends call it my Zen Den. I have a little place where I have my jewelry making, my paint, and my art. And I always try to go out every day, do a little meditation, and just do something creative, because we have to break that apart. And I think, then it really improves our quality of daily living, too. So if you're just catching us here, we're here with Jack Herschorn of the Sacred Space. And I'm Dr. Deborah, and we're just talking about mental health and beauty and serenity. I was wondering if you've ever heard of any campaigns or organizations in the beauty and serenity field that work specifically toward reducing mental health stigma. I know that's probably a very out there question, but I mean, I think it would be a great thing to have.
I don't think I could properly address this question.
That's a weird question, isn't it?
I would like to be able to address it, but I don't know about that.
Well, exactly. That's the point, is that, you know what I mean? There's just not a lot of discussion about it, I think.
I can tell you about our employees.
Perfect.
Our employees, everyone who has worked for us, because to work at the sacred space, you have to be an artist, because we hand make our bags, we make blessings, we embellish things, we do a lot of in-house art, and they have to serve people tea. They are dealing with people who are coming in with problems. They're in a service and art world, and every person who's worked for us, it has changed their lives. And we've had numbers of employees over the years. You know, people leave for various reasons,
Right.
but all of the ones that have worked for us for 2 or more years, they're still our friends, and no one is left on bad terms, but they love their job.
So you're basically saying you're an organization that works toward reducing mental health stigma by being accepting and supporting your workers, right? And also it sounds like, what other things are you doing? Like, are they allowed to journal and do those things there too that the other people partake in? Or
Well, if they wanted to write in a book, they can,
Yeah.
but you know, like most of them are artists.
So they already have that
They're
outlet.
writers, they're artists, they're something.
within them. I was just thinking also how people must feel very safe to trust you, because journaling is such an intimate thing, you know, for people to do. I mean, I understand people can jog down an idea, but I also just think that's very intimate. So they must feel very trusting. There's something where they walk in and they feel safe and trusting.
Well, we're a family operation. It feels like a family operation, you know.
Yeah.
So it's small.
Well, it is that way, right? I just am always imagining a world where each person has the opportunity, you know, toward self-peace and through this ability to overcome mental health barriers and obstacles. And I think that, I think we talk a lot about ways for people to get services for mental health or health, which would be like health insurance, treatment providers or programs. But I also think we can be resourceful because especially living in Santa Barbara, we have some amazing resources here. So, I mean, there are places like the Sacred Space you can go to kind of rejuvenate yourself and take time for yourself.
I'll tell you something. You know, it's interesting. We have a whole lot of psychologists, psychiatrists, and healthcare workers as clients. A whole lot of them. So, especially Pacifica students. I mean, we're right near Pacifica.
Well, you weren't there when I was there. Yeah, I would have come.
But they are with a lot come, and a lot of them actually buy things for their offices from us.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Rodley has a whole bunch of different things there. And actually, I share an office with Juliet Batita, and I know she has some different things in there. And we have lots of different shrines and statues. And I think it's nice because then people feel like welcome. And when they come to like my office, you know, they don't feel like too sterile, you know, feels welcoming.
So maybe we're a supply for mental health specialists.
Exactly. Maybe. Well, no, it sounds like it's much more than that, because you have created, you're not just selling items, because you also have other things you're doing there, right? You have journaling, you have tea.
We have events. We have speakers.
Right.
We have speaking events with people who have something really to say.
We just need more of your sacred spaces in more locations, right? Because then more people could use that. I mean, but then it would lose its intimate touch, right?
Well, we're not looking to expand. We've been there. We were given a free location on Melrose Place.
Nice.
In a very famous spot, but it was too much for us to go back and forth.
Yeah, that's okay.
So we closed it.
I was kind of being a little playful with. Oh, so you actually did try that, but I mean, I think if you have enough.
One of our clients said, "Here, I have the space. I welcome you to open up here.
Yeah.
I'm giving it to you for free rent. I'm telling you, this is like
I believe you.
$5 a square or $10 a square foot space." And we did it for about 6 months, and we said it's just too hard to do it.
You've also, I mean, you've been around Santa Barbara a long time. You know, I mean, this is your home, right? Your community. I mean, I know you travel a lot, but I think this, and also like you were saying that location has some special feeling. I mean, it doesn't have to be a big place on Melrose Place because you've already created your own nook that people really appreciate and can go to. And you feel comfortable there and you can do the work you need to do there too.
Yeah.
So it works all around.
Sort of.
I was wondering how do you think we can put more beauty and serenity into our lives? I know we've talked a lot about different ideas, but maybe you could just kind of encapsulate that of how we could put more beauty and serenity into our lives that would help to create more mental health.
Well, I think you should have a routine of flowers.
Yes.
Fresh flowers, maybe once a week. Put in a couple of little bouquets in your place. I think you should have an exercise routine to make sure that you're getting enough exercise so that your body's chemistry works properly.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should eat fresh food. I don't think packaged or canned or preserved food does anybody any good whatsoever. I think you should go to bed early and wake up early.
What's early for you?
Well, we go to bed at 9,
Yeah.
and we're up at 5 or 6.
Nice.
So it's...
I think it's interesting when you talk to people about their sleep because, one person might say early and it might be like 11. One person might say 6. You just don't know. So 9 is what you're saying, get a good night's rest. Were you going to say something else there?
No, well, I think that in the last 100 years, we've really sort of changed the pattern of when people sleep and when they're awake because of the electric light bulb.
Right.
And, I think people went to bed a lot earlier, and it's natural to go to bed earlier.
For sure. No, I feel like all the devices and electricity, because I grew up basically, my parents still live there, but it's the base of a mountain. And so, I could hear when I go to bed at night, I could hear the wheat blowing up the mountain. It was so quiet. And I think now when I try to sit there and it's quiet, but there's just like a buzzy. I think we have so many electronic things too, besides lights, right? But
And traffic.
Busyness. Yeah, we're very busy. But I like your idea too. I think one of the things that you said that probably isn't as commonly said when I ask people, that question is flowers. And I know I had a teacher who comes to town once a year. You might know Don Joe Sokon. You've probably met him, Rodale's friend.
Oh, yeah.
And he comes from Japan.
Love him. He's spoken at our place.
Yeah, and he's a nature monk. And I know he's taught me a lot of different ideas. And I love his idea, too, which is to have like a plant, a flower, if you can, in each room of your house, because it kind of captures it gets you tuned into your senses. So anything that exposes your senses, right?
I say play an instrument. Play music. It's healthy for you. Even if you don't think you can play, there's music in you.
Totally. And I mean, just because you're not going to be like a pro, it takes people 20 years to cultivate being a professional, but it's still healthy just to take out a guitar and strum on it or whatever instrument it is you want to play. It doesn't have to be perfect. So you're basically saying flowers, exercise, eating fresh food, and going to bed kind of at a healthy time period.
Yeah, and give up the big ideas. A quiet life is a good life. You don't have to rule the world.
Totally.
To find satisfaction in your life. You enjoy the small things.
That is so true. That's actually a really important point, I think, because I think we get so caught up in more and more and more. And I think really it can be really the simple pleasures. Just seeing, if you can see, or touching or talking, tasting something delicious to eat. But I think also it's about slowing down so you can notice those things. And I think the way to slow down is by, having more presence. And I think, if we do take better care of ourselves, we can be more present. I do think sleep is a really crucial piece that you brought up that I think everyone goes around and around with. But I really encourage people to find a routine because, your circadian rhythms really want to go to bed kind of at the same time. And then you can wake up and you can actually enjoy, your life a little bit more. I was also just looking up, just as a final tidbit of news, because we just have a couple minutes, about the increasing awareness of the importance of mental health and supporting the well-being of employees in the workplace, which kind of was what you were talking about with your employees that you have. And they're talking in the news about how a healthy workplace should include 5 components. They would be work-life balance, which it sounds like if people are creative at your sacred space, they can have that work-life balance. Health and safety. Sounds like it's pretty safe at your place there. Employee growth and development, employee recognition, employee involvement. And I was just bringing up the workplace because I brought, Jack is here and he's talking more about his actual sacred space. But I do think that if we think about where we go to each day and how do we kind of create maybe a little sacred space or a little spot on our desk or in our home or even in our car, to really create that sacredness. And so there's a lot of research coming around about workplace and mental health and how an organization's culture really impacts the staff and their health and well-being, as well as their job satisfaction and productivity. So I think we can better care of ourselves. We can help treat our employees better, right? So it sounds like you have a healthy relationship with your employees. And it kind of is a nice circle of caring.
Yeah, if we don't have a good relationship with an employee and they're not open, it's not a good situation for them.
Especially in the sacred space. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I was wondering, I know I brought up probably some questions that threw you back a little bit. Do you have any final words of wisdom that doesn't have to be related to what I was asking about, but for our listeners that you wanted to share?
I try to live each day fully. I don't think bad of anybody. If somebody's in a bad mood, I don't take it on as something about me. I know that they're going through something personal. I have a very small circle of friends. I don't want more friends. I like to have free time. I like to have alone time.
Right.
I don't feel left out. I love myself. I want to love myself. If I love myself, then I can love others.
Right. I mean, and the key, I think what you're saying too, I mean, I love what you said. You said much more than this, but just the idea of being kind to ourselves and toward others too. I think to soften ourselves with ourselves and with others can really bring this love. And I think it really does create a lot more enjoyment in life. I mean, I think, no day is going to go by where it's just like a smooth sailing, probably perfect day. So I think we don't have to, but it'd be healthy to figure out ways, to work together and to create these supportive environments, that empower and care for ourselves and others.
I try to forgive other people as quickly as I forgive myself too.
Right. Well, I love what the Dalai Lama says about that. He says that it's so important that we don't have to forget, but it's very important that we forgive. Because I think it very much hardens us too, if we can kind of become toxic, and that's a very important tip you gave about deciphering and teasing that apart and saying, okay, wait a minute, there's probably something going on in this person's life. That's why I try to send a wave or a smile or so we can all take care and be with each other. And I think some ways that we can work together are like volunteering, checking in with ourselves, learning about other cultures. And making sure to get accurate information from accurate, reliable sources, not random scientific studies. And I think this leads to an understanding, including and caring. And can you imagine a world where we can share our feelings and our thoughts more freely, where we can move toward health for all human beings? And I think if we each do our part toward ending negative perceptions about mental health and we raise awareness, we can live in a more loving, safe, and accepting world. So I want to thank my special guest, Jack, for coming in today and sharing his wisdom. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm embarrassed that you call it wisdom, but
Oh,
Thank you for that. I'll cherish it.
Well, it might not feel that way to you because you live your life, thank you. But you live your life this way. And so for you, it feels very natural and kind of normal. But I think, other people maybe need some tidbits, some tips, and some insights too. And so it might help them. I'm always trying to help other people. So, thank you for coming on. And if you do have questions for us, for me, you can write to me on my Facebook page, The Dr. Deborah Show. And if you or someone you know needs help, you can call the Santa Barbara Access Line at 1-888-868-1649. And also this week, if you would like to support the Dr. Deborah Show and the radio community, you can call to pledge your support. And their number here is 805-893-2424. And it's a great thing because with your donation of like even $50, you get to choose a gift. Like you get event tickets or dining certificates. So anyhow, we'll look forward to seeing you next week on the Dr. Deborah Show.